welcome back to Girls on Deck. I'm Lindsay Tellez.
And I'm Kayla Burge.
And we are kicking off our second episode of the season.
We are so excited today because we have not only one, but two very special interviews. One with Hitting the Field's very own Kennedy Collins to teach us a little bit about the NBA playoffs because, if I'm being honest, we both could use some help with some basketball knowledge.
We definitely need it.
Just a little bit.
Our second interview is with Ray Hernandez. He was drafted by the Atlanta Braves, so I'm really excited to see that one.
We're so excited today because we are dipping into a little bit of other sports. You know, last week you saw us just talk about baseball mainly, and we want to show our various sides that we can talk about other sports too. So we're going to get right into it with some big and sadder news in baseball. Legendary pitcher Tom Seaver and outfielder Lou Brock have passed away. These Hall of Famers left their mark not only on the teams they played on, but baseball as a whole.
For sure. They were both Hall of Famers. They played for 2 decades, and they were both involved in controversial trades. Now, Tom Seaver, his was known as the Midnight Massacre,
Dun, dun, dun.
which sounds crazy because it was. Nobody was expecting the Mets to trade away such an invaluable pitcher. And
he was Tom Terrific, as the Mets knew him, you know. He won the World Series with them, the Miracle Mets in '69. But, you know, after that's kind of the only season the Mets saw as that, you know, they were a young team at the time, and that was their biggest moment, and even anywhere near that decade. So it was crazy, his impact on the game, his impact on the Mets as a whole.
Yes, for sure. He was a mentor to all of the younger pitchers on the team, and I'm sure they had plenty to learn from him.
Oh, definitely. And players today still have stuff to learn from him. You know, he's not a name that was stuck in the 70s. You know, his name transcends generations. So it's crazy the impact that these players can make. And even Lou Brock, you know, he was a left field for the Cardinals, but his career, he had over 3,000 hits, the second most stolen bases in history with 938. So these people made their impact on baseball that will last them a lifetime.
Yes, and they both had, like you said, such an impact. And Lou Brock was known as a class act because he was so genuine and down to earth, and fans would come up to him and he would stop and have conversations with them. And, you know, it just goes back to it's bigger than baseball because fans are everything.
And I think that's what leaves a legacy too, is the type of character you are. You could be a great player, but if you're a bad person, lack of better terms, then you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be remembered that well, you know? But a good player and a great character, I mean, that's the ultimate package, and that's what makes a legacy.
Yes, there's no better combo than that.
So speaking of pitchers, we are going to talk about some iconic pitchers in this decade. So I'm going to start off with Jacob deGrom. I mean, this is a name that's not new. He's the back-to-back reigning Cy Young Award winner for the NL. So this man is pitching with a 1.69 ERA. He has 70 strikeouts this season. I mean, the Mets are blessed to have another iconic pitcher right now. What do you think?
Yes, for sure. And their bullpen could really learn from him and take some tips from them because the Mets are known for blowing the games that they are winning. So
they're fourth in the NL East right now, and you know their record's not great. They're 19-24. It's not. Jacob deGrom does not have the team around him that he deserves, if I'm being really honest. I mean, the guy's, again, reigning back-to-back Cy Young Award winner, and he's playing on the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, they don't call him Jacob the GOAT for nothing.
No, literally. So I know you wanted to talk about Adam Wainwright.
Yes, so we're going to talk about another Cardinals player, Adam Wainwright. Now, last Sunday, it was his 39th birthday. And to celebrate his birthday, he pitched a complete game. Now, not only one complete game, not two, but his 23rd career complete game.
Unbelievable.
When did you hear about that happening?
No, I mean, the strain on their shoulders for that, like, my shoulder hurts thinking about that.
Yeah.
I throw a baseball once and I'm like, guys, I'm done for the rest of the year.
Yes, I play catch, and, you know, after 5 pitches, I'm like, all right, give me a break.
Like, let's stop here. You know, it's done. No, it's insane. Another thing to speak about character is back in 2017, Ryan Sheriff was a minor league player. We all know minor leaguer players don't make nearly the amount that MLB players make.
Absolutely.
And he was trying to make it to the Cardinals, and Adam Wainwright found out that he was walking to spring training because he couldn't afford a car. So Adam Wainwright took it upon himself to rent him a car for the rest of spring training so that he didn't have to walk anymore. And I mean, that just shows like the type of guy this is. He could be all about himself. He's a great pitcher, you know what I mean? He doesn't have to care about other people, but he does. And he wants to make his team the best. He wants to make the future of the MLB the best. And that's just something that I think was so special when I found that out while researching him this weekend.
Yes, talk about a class act and selfless.
Definitely,
because
definitely.
who would do that? These players make a lot of money, clearly, and he chose to spend his money doing that to help other players out, which is just
Exactly.
great.
Exactly. And it goes back to character and a pretty good pitcher. So I actually didn't even know this, but we talked about a Mets player and a Cardinals player, Tom Seaver, Lou Brock. So
yes,
that was so funny. Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll get back to you in a little bit with an interview with Kennedy Collins talking about the NBA. Thanks so much and stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
I have a very special guest, Mr. Mike Golick Jr. Let me tell you, this is one of the nicest guys I have met so far in this industry. So thank you so much for coming and talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, listen, smart move. I am not immune to flattery, so buttering me up on the way in is the absolute right way to do this. You're learning already.
That was the goal. I had it in my notes.
We are back with the one and only Kennedy Collins from our own Hitting the Field family. How are you, Kennedy?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're good. Getting through it. Quarantine, school, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to get right into it. After an exciting game against the Bucks, the Miami Heat are headed to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2014 and the Big Three. So are you a Miami fan? Like, how do you feel about this?
Personally, I'm not the biggest Miami fan. I was a bigger fan when LeBron was there, but I think what the Miami Heat organization does, especially how consistent they are, they're always going to be a fun team to watch.
Definitely. I'm personally a Heat fan, so I try to keep up as much as possible, but, it gets hard these days. So in Game 4 against the Heat, Giannis re-sprained his ankle and was out for the rest of that game and Game 5. Do you think that hurt the Bucks and ultimately ruined their chances of making the Eastern Conference Finals?
I definitely do, but I think we saw that in Game 3, Giannis did kind of sprain the ankle a little bit, but he was still playing with it. So they kind of knew that he was coming into a game with a little bit of an injury. I definitely think that without Giannis, it still did open up avenues for people like Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe to really shine. So it's not necessarily that they were missing him, because we have to remember that Chris Middleton was an all-star before. But it's definitely a big presence that they lost, but the Bucks still had definitely a fight in them.
Yeah. And then so who do you think, being the loss of Giannis and stuff, who do you think won the game for Miami?
I think for Miami, it's not Jimmy Butler like we would think it would be. I think it was definitely just a collective effort. They have an amazing bench in Kelly Olynyk. They have great youth in Tyler Hero. And, of course, they have an amazing all-star center in Bam Adebayo. So yes. I think for the Heat, it was definitely just a collection of their organization as well as just great all-around players who are willing to win that we've seen that really helped them win this game.
Yeah, as a Heat fan, I'm definitely excited to watch the playoffs now.
Yeah, I know that it was definitely a huge upset, and they took 4 games out of 5. So
yeah,
pretty surprising.
Definitely. But I also kind of feel like, with the final game, it did kind of expose a lot of Miami. We saw a lot of turnovers. We didn't really see Jimmy Butler playing as poised as he could have or should have. So it's kind of a game that we would have wished, especially for Miami Heat fans, that they would have finished in 4 and called it a day, because that Game 5 was a little bit of a struggle for them. But overall, I think Miami is going to look really good going forward into the conference finals.
Definitely. Again, very excited. So.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting rest of the playoffs for sure. Now I'm going to take over the questioning, and let's get into a little bit more of a controversial topic. Now, Steve Nash was hired as one of the head coaches for the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I know that created a lot of discussion because he has no coaching experience and he has a 4-year deal. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that a little bit.
Well, I think with Steve Nash, you know what you're getting. He's a Hall of Famer and also was a really great point guard. So with the Brooklyn Nets having Chris Chiozza and also developing players like Kyrie still, and Karis LeVert at the small forward position, I think he's in a great position because he knows what's expected of a program. He came from a great organization with the Suns, so he knows what it takes to build championship caliber teams. He's also inheriting a really, really good team with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and they have great youth in Jarrett Allen and even young guards or young centers like Nicholas Claxton. So I really think that Steve Nash is in a good position. I do think that the lack of experience is a concern, but Jerry Colangelo said it himself that it's a gamble. And with any coach, it's always going to be a gamble because you don't know what you're going to get. So I think he's still in a great position. I think we're going to have to see what he does. And from here, we can't really make an assumption.
Yeah, time will tell.
Time will tell. Yes, there's probably going to be an adjustment period because a new team. He's never coached before. It's going to be a trial and error. Practice makes perfect. So we wish him the best with his position with the Nets. And now I want to ask you, who is your favorite team to win it all? Like, who do you have your eye on?
Who takes over the bubble?
For me, it's the Clippers. I think the Clippers are one of the most diverse teams in the NBA currently because with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard being two of the highest scoring pairs, not only are they arguably some of the best two-way defenders in the league, I think that they make a different composition than any team in the NBA. And then, of course, having Montrezl Harrell being the current Sixth Man of the Year, as well as Lou Williams being the former Sixth Man of the Year, I think that it puts them in a unique position, especially with Doc Rivers and his coaching experience, who has won a championship. I think they know what's required of them, and I think that they have enough of a healthy team and that they have a great unit that's going to be able to help them win championships this year.
Definitely excited to watch, and this is the most exciting time. I think basketball playoffs are one of my favorites to watch, definitely. So thank you so much for joining us and answering our questions. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kennedy. And when we are back after the break, we have our interview with Ray Hernandez, so stay tuned.
How has a failure or apparent failure set you up for a future success? And do you maybe have a favorite failure of yours?
I think there was a time in my life where I was living in Germany. I'd lived in Germany for a year. You might have read that in the article, actually. And I remember coming back from Germany and having the goal in mind to work in baseball, but really being completely resigned that there's no way I could possibly make it happen. I just didn't have, the technical coding know-how to be like a numbers cruncher in a front office. I didn't really have any connections in the industry to speak of. And so I just felt completely dejected. And, I had this YouTube channel that had 800 subscribers. And the first time I made a baseball bits, which is, like you said, the flagship series, I probably got 200 views or something like that. But then I kept making them. And I think by the time I got to the third one, it just blew up. And then that's kind of where I got to where I am now.
Welcome back to Girls on Deck. We have here with us a fellow Cubano and third baseman, Ray Hernandez. He was originally drafted by the Atlanta Braves and is now playing for the Washington Wild Things. How are you doing today, Ray?
Doing good. How about you?
I am doing great. I'm super excited to get this going. So I just want you to tell us a little bit how your journey led you to play for the Washington Wild Things.
So yeah, I was playing with the Atlanta Braves. I got drafted in 2018, played for them for 2 seasons. And then, during COVID, they just released a bunch of guys, not just them, just a bunch of teams, a bunch of minor leaguers. And yeah, so I got released with that. And my agent, he's a great agent. His name is Derek Marquez, agent out of Toronto, was able to get me a job within 30 hours. So I wasn't stressed out too bad. For those 30 hours I was, but I wasn't stressed out too bad, and signed with this indie ball team in Washington, Pennsylvania, and I've enjoyed it so far, at least.
That's amazing, and I'm really happy that you're here with us today because independent leagues are another route that ball players can go that isn't really talked about a lot, but it should.
Right.
So now we're going to talk about, 2020 has been a crazy, unpredictable year, right? So How did social distancing and COVID-19 change your day-to-day training, and how are you adjusting to the new normal?
It didn't affect me too much in the sense of like the places where I train at anyway are very private areas. Like just, you can't go to a Planet Fitness and do baseball stuff. So
Right.
the stuff that's like closed are more general things where you could always find a buddy who owns a gym or something like that. And that's kind of what my training has been like for this whole COVID situation. So I'm training just about the same amount that I would if there wasn't COVID. So to be honest, like, it doesn't really affect me personally, but I know it affects a lot of baseball players. A lot of guys are just still trying to figure out what they want to do when it comes to lifting weights or hitting or anything like that.
Right, of course. And are you still training with some of your teammates, or how does that go?
You mean like who teammates, like the Braves or Wild Things, or what do you mean?
No, the Wild Things.
We were playing up until about like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
Right.
We were just like playing our season, and there's really nobody else that's from this area that I can train with because I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina now. I live here with my fiance. So there's really nobody here that I know from the Wild Things, but there's a facility here that I give lessons at called Trifecta, and there's baseball players from another independent league called the Atlantic League that train and do lessons there. So I still train, just not with my teammates.
Oh, okay. That sounds awesome, and I'm super happy that you're still able to keep a routine and schedule, because that's so important in sports.
Right.
So I'm really interested to know, what is your pregame ritual? Like, how do you get pumped before a game?
Right. That's funny. I mean, yeah, baseball players, they have rituals and stuff like that. Me personally, I don't really have anything that I have to like listen to or socks or anything like that I have to do before a game. But recently, I feel like depending on it all affects, like, well, it all depends on what time the game is. If the game's in the morning,
Right.
then there's not really nothing you can do, just like get ready and go. But if the game's later, I try to think about, or at least watch either like The Office or something that's gonna like not be baseball related. Unless I'm struggling, then that's like all I'm watching is like baseball and trying to get tips and stuff like that. But for the most part, I don't really have any pregame rituals. I try not to eat anything big before a game. I get really nervous before every single game. That's just like how I've been my entire life. And until I like get a ground ball or take a pitch, I have like crazy butterflies. So eating like just, makes that worse. But I don't know. I like to do some, a couple, like maybe like a Red Bull. With the Wild Thing, we had a good little ritual we were doing where we played like dominoes or something like that before.
Oh.
So like, yeah, it was great. So I was like teaching so one of the guys that we had, he's from Brooklyn. Joe is a really good friend of mine. So we knew how to play dominoes, but a lot of the other guys didn't. So we were kind of like taking a little bit of money from them and stuff like that initially, but then we taught them too well and they were like beating us. So that's the little fun thing. So we were doing that kind of as a ritual, and we'll probably do that again. But other than that, it's just, like try to keep your mind off of the game as much as you can, because when it's game time, you really are focused for a couple hours, and it's hard not to like have that like just be the center of everything. You kind of want to take a break. So
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I was not expecting that at all.
Yeah.
So now, which do you prefer? What do you take more pride in, your fielding or your hitting?
Oh my gosh. I know, well, which one do I take more pride in? Is definitely my fielding. Like if we're talking about what I take pride in, but that's only because I see myself as an extremely good third baseman. I feel like my fielding is one of my strong suits, but I'm a pretty good hitter too, honestly. And it's just a matter of the hitting thing though, that's on and off. You could be a good hitter, but that doesn't mean you're going to hit. You go through rough patches all the time, and there's times where you see the ball well and you're not hitting. Yeah, so it just depends on, what I'm doing. But that's the thing about fielding. And if I was fast, I'm very slow. But if I was fast, it'd be my speed. So it's just fielding's there every single day, no matter what. So I take more pride, I guess, in my fielding. I'm more prideful of that. But, hitting is what everybody wants to do, and you have to be able to hit to be professional anyway. So it's a little bit of both, but I would lean more towards my fielding, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, to play third base, you have to have a cannon for an arm, and speed is important as well. So since you said fielding, that
that leads me to my next question, which is, how do you prepare defensively?
Well, third base is one of those positions that, like center field, like catching, where really the only way you can really get reps in is like playing, because it's so fast, unless you're taking it. So to answer the question, during batting practice is the best time you can get any kind of preparation. So that's the closest it'll be to the game. People usually don't hit the ball to third base, honestly, during batting practice, because if they're right-handed, they're trying to go opposite field to warm up. And if you're left-handed, you're going opposite field too to warm up, but you're not going down the line. So
Right.
it sucks kind of. So I just move over to shortstop, honestly, and get like close. But then the coaches are always like, yo, watch out. So it depends. But honestly, third base is just is a natural position. Like, you can either play it or you can't. A lot of it's just reflexes that you've just developed your entire life. The arm thing, like you said, is there. That depends. Some coaches don't really care about third basemen having a strong arm. They just make them play in. Other coaches do. It just depends. But to work on third base, I think it's more of a natural thing, honestly. And it's more of a mental approach. So, like, before the pitch is thrown, getting your, being prepared to just move fast. So you can work on that, obviously, during batting practice. But if it's one of those things that I think is a little more natural than other positions.
Right, and your reflexes have to be cat-like almost, because if a guy hits the ball down the line, that could be a potential double or triple. So
Right.
those diving plays are really important, like Superman almost.
Right.
Okay. So this question I'm really looking forward to.
Okay.
If you could take batting practice from any player, with any player, past or present.
Wow, that's a crazy question. I've never been asked that. If I could take batting practice with any player, just one player?
Yeah, you can pick multiple if you want.
Oh, well, shoot. If I could pick, let's say, because groups of batting practice are usually 4 people. Usually.
Okay.
So I'll tell you 3 other guys. So I would love to take, for sure, with, Cespedes. Giannis Cespedes will be huge. That's, one of my favorite players ever. Just watching him, obviously, growing up. I would love to take batting practice with Miguel Cabrera, because he's another player that I love. A guy who, did the Triple Crown in 2012. A guy who hits the ball very well to all fields. And then, man, of all time. Huh?
A veteran.
Yes. Oh, my gosh, yes. So I think so. Cespedes, for real, just to have that. He's a power-hitting, right-handed Cuban guy that who I would like to play like. So him, Miguel Cabrera, and probably, I like JD Martinez a lot. So maybe JD, because he has another guy he's like me. He's Cuban-American. He grew up in South Florida. I grew up in Central Florida. But, yeah, probably those. That'd be a great hitting group, honestly. And then if I'm talking about old timers, maybe like Babe Ruth or somebody like that, somebody crazy, to see what they would do. But yeah, I've never been asked that before. That's a good question.
Right. Yeah. Because I was thinking about, how Christian Yelich, his batting coach was Barry Bonds. So
Right.
I was thinking about that, and I said, "Ooh, I bet that would be a good question to ask."
Yeah.
When I was doing my research, I realized that you were getting scouted by the Astros in your junior year, huh? And that's really funny, because the Astros are my team.
Oh, that's your favorite team. That's interesting. That's funny.
Yes.
Yeah. So you like Gurriel? That's your player, Ulieski.
Yeah. So how did that come to be?
The scouting part.
Yes.
So basically, how it works is so scouts have areas that they have to man. So for example, the scout that I had was like the Atlanta scout. So because I went to school in Montgomery, Alabama, all the scouts from Atlanta, which are about 2 hours away, if they, for example, they heard about me or they saw my whatever, they would come see me. So I honestly, that's just a part of it, and that's just part of the business side of baseball, I guess. But teams always tell you they like you. So honestly, I'm not sure where you read that, but yeah, I talked to I thought I was gonna get drafted by the Astros for sure, but I thought I was gonna get drafted by the Astros my junior year, not my senior year. So my junior year, a scout for the Astros would go to everything that we had. They would go to practice, anything that we had with the team, he'd go, and he talked to me, and I would do well, and he would say, "Oh, we're gonna make sure we pick you up," and this and that, and it didn't happen after my 3rd year. So they really wanted us. The scout wanted them to draft me, but that doesn't really mean that the team is going to go out there and draft me. Like for the Braves, for example, they never watched me until the very, very end of my senior year.
Oh, wow.
They sent Hank Aaron Jr., so Hank Aaron's son, to go watch me. So they watched me and they liked me enough where they were like, listen, because scouts will say whatever. They'll say, yeah, we're going to draft you, but they have no power when it comes to that. They just tell the team, this is who we like. And the team feels like they'll get you. So Hank Aaron Jr., obviously his dad is a legend. So it was his opinion mattered a little bit. And then another guy, his name is Ralph Garr, and he's a Braves legend. And he played in the same conference that I played in. And he was watching me and he told me straight up, like, listen, we're going to draft you. Just make sure you're ready. I'm like, dude, like, of course I'm ready. The heck? So he, because of them, literally they decided we want me. Like, they wanted me. They just went 100% for it. And that's how it worked. You know, the Astros wanted me, but there was like the Diamondbacks, the Astros, the Royals for a little bit. You fill out questionnaires for everybody, but that's just a little bit of interest. That's not the same as them saying, give me your social security number. Let me see your phone number, your email. Give me another phone number in case we call you on that day. You know, like, it's different. They just took different steps, you know.
Right. They basically come up with a portfolio of the player that they're looking at, and the teams look at their needs and how their team is going to look like and what they're going to need in the coming years. So
right.
It's amazing that you got drafted by the Braves and they're closest to home for you.
Right. Yeah.
Who has been your biggest supporter and inspiration throughout your career?
I mean, I've had a lot of people supporting me. Like my dad, obviously, my dad raised me, you know, and he was the one who forced me to play when I was younger, and then pushed me the whole way until I got drafted. And even now, still like checks up on me and says like, "Hey, are you working out? Are you doing this and that?" I haven't had too many like haters or anything like that. So honestly, anybody who's like been around me has supported me. People who have known me the best, like my fiance, my dad, my mom. These are the people who know me the longest amount of time. Those are my biggest supporters. Inspiration, like I said, I get inspiration for baseball anywhere. You know, if I turn on my PlayStation and I play the show or something like that, then I'm getting inspiration right there because I want to be there. If I watch any kind of, and it doesn't even have to be baseball. If I see somebody who has, let's say they have money or they're successful, I want to get to there. That inspires me. That pushes me to succeed in baseball, or even if it's not baseball, whatever I decide to do. I just get inspiration from anything like that, honestly.
Right. Your family are so important to keep pushing you and believing in you, and just the MLB in general and playing the show. I was going to ask you if you play, but
I don't play as much as Josh, but I definitely play.
do you have a favorite card that you like to use, or?
That's a good. These are really good questions. Who tells you these questions?
Oh,
You make these up?
I picked them myself.
Okay, so my favorite card that I use is like not a great one that it's not gonna be the best one, but there's a card. So Joey Gallo is one of my favorite players because he has a crap ton of power. So in the game, he has a card that you can get. It's called a Team Infinity card. So I pushed or whatever, and you like trade or whatever to get this card. And he's probably my favorite card to use because he has so much power. But that was like in the beginning of the game, and so many people have done well this season that his card is like crap now. But that was my favorite card for a long time. But they just did a Jose Abreu card yesterday that I want to use because he hit his 4 home runs in a row.
Yes.
So they updated his thing. So that's probably the one that I'm going to be using today and tomorrow and these next coming days for sure.
That sounds great. Great. Jose Abreu has been killing it. He's on fire.
He's doing great.
Yeah. So to close this out, I want to ask you, what is some advice that you have for young aspiring ball players trying to get drafted or anything like that? What do you have to say to them?
I think the biggest thing is it just depends what stage they're at in their life, first of all. If they're like, let's say they're really young, they're not even in high school yet, the best thing you can do is just play every single weekend. You know, obviously play every single day if you can, but every single weekend, go do a tournament. I remember I never had weekends off or anything. I always was playing. And for real, they're off from school, but I was always playing baseball. Like, there was never a weekend where I wasn't playing or doing something. I played for 1 million travel ball teams at the same time. Like, I had a tournament every weekend. And if I didn't do that, I was at least practicing. Like, I always did something, always. So that's the best way for you to improve. When you get to high school, it's the same thing. Like, try to go to a school if you can that you're going to play every single day. The biggest thing here is that you can play every single day. And then when you're thinking about college, it's extremely simple. Again, like a place where you can go that hopefully will pay for your school as much as they can. So the best scholarship you can get, and how much time you're going to get to play. So if that's a junior college or Division III, it doesn't matter. Like I've played with so many guys that have been Division II, Division III, and I played with guys that played at the biggest D1 schools and they never got drafted. It doesn't matter. If you're good, they will find you no matter where you play. There's so many.
They will make a spot for you.
They will for sure figure it out. So because of that, you need to put yourself in the best position for you to improve. So it's just a matter of, if you're in high school, getting the best grades that you can. That way, just because these scholarship offers will just be easier, it'd be even easier for you to go to a school that you want. If you have a 4.0, you go anywhere you want and play baseball. Even if it's a big school, they'll find a way to. They want players like that. So if you're in high school, get the best grades you can and try to go to a place where you're going to play the most you can. And then if you're in college, it's hard, but a lot of times I was lucky enough to go to a school that wasn't a big party school, that there wasn't a lot of distractions for me. And I met my fiance there, so it was a lot easier for me to just focus on baseball. But you want to, a lot of times people go to college and they just wild out, and that's all good, but you're going to lose sight of why you went to college. You went to college so that way you can get your degree and get drafted. So when you're in college, it's just a matter of working out, taking your team workout serious, and then spending as much time as you can when you're not studying, hitting, honestly, and getting better at whatever it is. If you're a pitcher, it's the same thing, working out, really, really strengthening your legs and your core. But after, we could put my Instagram or something like that on there. And if anybody has any questions, they can obviously ask me whenever. And like I said, it's just specific things for each player and what stage of their career they're at. But
Sure. Thank you for that. We have a lower third graphic, so we'll put your Instagram on there just in case anybody has any questions for you. And it's definitely a grind. You dedicate, like we said, your life to this, and you need to just do the work and stay consistent, and you're capable of doing great things.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for giving us the time to share your story. We will continue to follow you, and we wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors. You and your family stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we are back once again for our final segment, and we are going to be talking about this day in sports history. Now, for those of you who love tennis, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist with that one. But in September 2018, Naomi Osaka overcame the defending champion Serena Williams in the Grand Slam singles final and became the first Japanese tennis player ever to hold the U.S. Open title.
Yeah, no, it was a super exciting thing because, Serena Williams, she's a household name. Whether you know tennis or not, you know Serena Williams.
For sure.
What was interesting about this game, though, was that people were booing Naomi Osaka for winning because during the game, some bad calls, it's a perception thing, were made against Serena Williams, and people were mad, yes. Understandably so, but the girl was Naomi Osaka was 20 years old at the time. She was just excited to win, and people were booing her. So she ended up apologizing for winning. And I'm like, why would you you did that? You know what I mean? It's you played the game. So it was really sad to see that. I remember I was watching a video yesterday, and she was in tears, and she's like, I'm sorry. I know you guys wanted Serena to win. And I'm like, no, this is your moment. Take it and run. So, but nonetheless, this girl she made her mark on tennis that day. That's what everyone said. They're like, that's when she made her name, and she's still playing today and even making an impact in a larger way.
Yeah, I mean, talk about girl power, right? And it brings me back to the moment with Fernando Tatis Jr. when he swung on 3-0 and he ended up hitting a grand slam. Now, that was taboo, and everybody was talking crap about him and saying that he shouldn't have done that, and it's the unwritten rules of baseball. Listen, if you're throwing a meatball down the middle, you're going to swing. It doesn't matter what count it is.
Exactly. You hit the ball, you hit the ball. I mean, that's how the game is played.
So it just comes back to that. And, the fact that she felt bad that she won, that brings it back to character.
Exactly.
She felt and how genuine she is.
She was humble because she could have got there and been like, screw Serena Williams. I won. Screw all of you for booing. But no, she was humble. And, again, it was sad, though, to see that. She deserved to have just like
have
she
her
won.
moment.
Yeah, have her moment, not let it be tainted by a sucky audience, in my opinion. So
Yeah, and I mean, of course, defending champs, you want them to keep defending their
Of
title,
course,
right?
of
But I mean,
course.
if you come out there on the court and you're killing it, girl, then you keep doing your
Exactly.
thing. And if Serena Williams couldn't keep up, that's not her
that's,
problem.
That's not Naomi's problem. And I think I love seeing the underdog win, especially she's 20 years old. You know what I mean? Like, she's a young player, and she did that herself. So I got to give it to her, honestly.
Yeah, and that must have been such a proud moment for her and so memorable, of course.
Her and her culture, you know, she's the first Japanese player to ever do that. So I mean, it's truly an iconic moment, her winning that.
Yes, and I know that she is mixed, and it was kind of a controversial, I don't want to say issue, but they thought of it as, different within the Japanese culture, and that just, I remember reading that it completely turned around the views of her in Japan, and that's amazing.
No, yeah, it's amazing to see how she's taken all that turmoil and, come above it and showed that she can play tennis, clearly. So
yeah, because all of that negativity, weighing down on her, that could go either two ways. It could lead her down, and she might not perform as well as she might have been able to. But then clearly she took the road where she said, you know what, listen, haters, here I am, and I'm gonna win this thing.
Yeah, like, back off. I'm here, and I'm here to stay. Because again, she's been playing in tournaments this past week, I know, making a statement with the mask that she's been wearing mask in support of Trayvon Martin and
Breonna Taylor.
Breonna Taylor, yes, sorry. So yeah, it shows how, again, it's bigger than the sport, and she's been making an impact on the court and off the court. So it's really amazing to see that.
For sure. For her, for her to have won, and her, like we said, using her platform to, keep this conversation going and saying, we're not forgetting about you, just because things aren't happening the way that they should, we are not going to forget
Exactly.
your names.
They're not forgetting the little people, and that's what I like to see, like, it's like, yeah, you have this platform, you're up here, you're winning these games, but, not everyone in this life has it easy, and they don't have it easy either, but you know what I mean? Like, they're looking in other perspectives of different people, so I think it's awesome to see sports players using their platforms.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you so much, so much for tuning in to our second episode of Girls on Deck, and don't forget to tune in next Wednesday.
Bye!